Today, I'm gonna try something that could completely change how I think about filming and editing videos. Here's what we're doing. I'm gonna see if I can take different cameras from different manufacturers and put them together in the same video, in the same production, without too much work on the back end and editing. Oh, I didn't have anything to say. This is just supposed to be B-roll. Conventional wisdom tells us that if we're filming something that requires multiple cameras, we should try to match all of those cameras as best as we can. The best case scenario is that all of your cameras that you're shooting with are the same camera. So let's say you are shooting a video that requires 4 cameras rolling. Best case scenario, you have 4 Canon C70s, 4 RELXs, 4 Sony FX9s. That way, when you're editing, you bring all the clips in and they all just match because you match settings, you matched colors, they're all from the same manufacturer. They should look great. But here's the thing, I don't have 4 Sony FX9s. I don't have 4 of any type of camera. I don't have 2 of any type of camera. I have 1 C70, I have 1 R5C, and I have access to a couple of Sony cameras, but they all have different lenses with adapters, some without adapters. It's a mixed bag, is my point. They also tell you that you should try to match lenses as closely as possible as well. And you know what? All of this totally makes sense. It wouldn't make any sense for you to be filming a video and trying to match a vintage Soviet anamorphic lens with like a modern super sharp cine lens, right? That doesn't make any sense at all. But I'm not trying to do something crazy. I'm not trying to push the limits of anything. All I'm trying to do is see if I can kind of throw it all together and mix them without too much work on the back end. So here's an important caveat and something you might be thinking. I'm not breaking any new ground here. Professional colorists match camera sources all the time. But I'm not a professional colorist. This is mostly a test to see where my skills are and where the tools are that are out there for this kind of thing. Because if I can start mixing together Canon with Sony, with Blackmagic, with Panasonic, that opens up some interesting possibilities. Maybe I can get that GH6 that I'm always thinking about because I'm secretly a Panasonic fanboy. So enough hemming and hawing, let's get to it. I'm gonna go shoot something using different cameras from different manufacturers and edit it together, and that is what you're about to see. I once heard someone describe having a blue heeler not as having a dog, you have an employee. I found that to be the case, except that my employee never does any of the tasks that I want them to or ever clocks out. So Marty's about 4 years old now. We adopted him when he was 1. He's a rescue dog from Mississippi, displaced by a hurricane. He and his brother came to Wisconsin. His name is Grit at the time, and his brother was Duke. That's kind of cool that the 2 Heeler brothers were John Wayne dogs. I sometimes think about Duke and hope he's doing as well as Marty is now. Marty's a really good boy. Any complaining that I do about his behavior, I shouldn't. He's a very good boy. He tries really hard. I feel bad for him because he has a hard time being around other dogs that aren't his sister. And so taking him for walks is sometimes difficult. A lot of times it's difficult. And so I've lately been taking him for night walks when there aren't other dogs around. It's just a really good feeling to see him having a good time. I am very surprised with the results of that test. I was reasonably confident in my abilities in DaVinci Resolve, thinking that like, okay, push comes to shove, I'll be able to get these cameras to match, and it'll just be a matter of how many nodes do I need to add on to the process. But in that interview setup, you know, the wider shot and the tighter shot, the cameras cut together surprisingly well to my eye, and it did not require very much work at all. So I used 2 cameras for that interview setup. I used a Canon camera and I used a Sony camera. And I could have stacked the deck, right? I could have shot raw on either or both cameras, and then in post, I assume it would be a trivial matter to match them. But I didn't shoot RAW, and one of the cameras, I didn't even shoot 10-bit. The two cameras that I used were my Canon R5C, shooting in long GOP, 10-bit, 4K, XFAVC codec. The other camera that I was using, it was a Sony Venice. Okay, you got me. No, just kidding. No, it was an old Sony A7IV. That doesn't even shoot 10-bit. It shot 8-bit, and it matched pretty well. It wasn't perfect, but I made very slight adjustments to contrast, white balance, and saturation on the Sony. To me, that works. That plays. I can get away with that. I use my old Sony A7 III and mix it with the R5C. That's kind of nuts. You know, if I was more self-reflective, this might make me wonder if buying all this new camera stuff was worth it, but thank God I'm not. So where does this leave me? Am I going to go out and buy an A7S III or a GH6 now that I know that I can just throw cameras together willy-nilly and all be fine? No, I don't think so. But this experiment has given me the confidence to know that I could go out and rent those other cameras and use them for the things that they are particularly good at, and the footage I get from them is probably going to match just fine with my Canon footage. And that's pretty cool. I'll take that. And I hope you take that. I guess is how I'm going to end the video. I hope you take that.